spotlights blinding, the Chicago Art Institute electric with whispers. Would the elusive Seraphina moon finally show? I moved through the glittering crowd, straight towards my parents, the esteemed doctors who only knew me as Ariel Vargas. Just as the velvet drapes slid down, revealing my soul poured onto canvas, I reached them. Mom, Dad, I'm Seraphina Moon. Those 3 words detonated everything. Smash that like button if you crave shocking reveals. Comment your prediction of their reaction, and subscribe now to see the explosive aftermath. I never actually wanted to be a doctor. That probably sounds incredibly ungrateful. Medicine is a noble path, I know, but for me, it was always a gilded cage meticulously constructed by my parents, slowly suffocating my soul's true calling. Art. My name is Ariel Vargas, and for the past 6 exhausting years, I've been living a precarious double life. To my parents, the esteemed doctor, Elena and Dr. Ricardo Vargas, I'm their perfect daughter, following precisely in their surgical footsteps at St. Jude's Medical Center. But to the vibrant Chicago art world, I'm Seraphina Moon, one of the most sought-after contemporary artists, completely anonymous. The biting irony slammed into me this morning, standing right here in the hospital's gleaming, newly renovated wing, their domain for 30 years. They were unveiling a Healing Through Art initiative, and there, commanding the lobby, hung my latest painting, a massive, color-saturated canvas purchased anonymously via Julian Vance's gallery for a staggering $2 million. Mom critiqued it, naturally. Splashes of paint for $2 million? She scoffed. Dad just muttered about preferring new equipment. If only they knew their daughters' splashes would fund the entire pediatric care program they champion. But my story, the real one, ignited 10 years ago. I was 18, clutching an acceptance letter, a full scholarship, to the Sterling Institute of Art, the place I'd dreamed of. The same hands holding that letter, trembling, had secretly won 3 national youth art competitions under a different name, hands my parents only envisioned holding scalpels. Absolutely not. Dad's voice boomed through our meticulously decorated Chicago brownstone, making the crystal on the shelves vibrate. No daughter of mine will waste her life painting pictures. I stood small in the living room. But, Dad, the scholarship, they said I'm one of the most promising artists they've seen. Mom, Dr. Elena Vargas, sat perfectly poised on the leather sofa, her face a mask of practiced disappointment. Ariel, we've invested everything preparing you for medical school. The prep courses, the summer programs at Northwood, the medical college admission test tutors. This isn't a discussion. I never asked for those, I protested, the familiar pressure building behind my eyes. Enough. Dad cut me off. You think art provides a stable future? Look at your cousin Mateo, tried that creative path. Now he's 35, still crashing on his parents' couch. But I'm good at it, I whispered. Mom rose. You're good at science too, Ariel. Top of your class. Perfect medical college admission test scores. That's your true calling. I wanted desperately to tell them about the pieces I'd already sold online, about Julian Vance's first tentative email, but their world only recognized success in a white coat. The Sterling Institute's letter crumpled in my fist. That night, the weight of their expectations felt suffocating, pressing down on me in the silence of my bedroom. I had a choice, stark and unforgiving. Defy my parents, potentially lose everything I knew as family, or somehow forge another path through the suffocating constraints they'd imposed. I stared at the crumpled Sterling Institute letter, a painful symbol of the vibrant future they refused to acknowledge. With a heart heavy as lead, I sat down and typed out the email declining their generous scholarship and prestigious offer, each word feeling like a small death, a betrayal of the artist burning inside me. Then, swallowing the bitterness, I formally accepted my place at their beloved alma mater, Northwood University School of Medicine. But that wasn't the final act. Before doubt could cement my surrender, I opened a fresh email draft. This one was addressed to Julian Vance, the insightful gallery owner who'd seen something unique in my work weeks prior. Under my carefully crafted pseudonym, Seraphina Moon, I laid out my non-negotiable terms. "I must work in absolute secrecy," I typed, my fingers flying, fueled by a desperate need to keep this part of me alive. "No public appearances, no photos, absolutely no interviews linking me to the art. But I will keep painting. I have to." His response flashed into my inbox within hours, a sudden electrifying spark in the oppressive darkness. "Intriguing," it read. "Mystery can be a very powerful marketing tool, Seraphina. Send me your next piece whenever you're ready. Let's begin." And just like that, shrouded by the vast anonymity of Chicago, my perilous double life officially commenced. And so began the balancing act. By day, I plunged into the demanding world of Northwood University School of Medicine, dissecting human anatomy with the same meticulous focus I'd once reserved for color theory. By night, huddled in a small, anonymous studio apartment across Chicago rented under my alias, I poured every spare ounce of energy onto canvas, creating art that slowly began to ripple through the consciousness of collectors, first locally, then globally. That first year was brutal. Med school was every bit the relentless beast my parents had promised, and there were nights I genuinely thought the sheer pressure would crack me wide open. Yet, paradoxically, the bone-deep exhaustion and constant stress seemed only to ignite my art. My paintings grew bolder, more intense, saturated with raw emotion. Critics, unaware of the source, called Seraphina Moon's work visceral, almost surgical in its precision. Oh, the irony. My first significant breakthrough came during my second year, a triptych exploring cellular decay, which Julian Vance sold for an astonishing $180,000. I celebrated utterly alone in my studio, a silent, ecstatic dance amidst the lingering scent of turpentine, acutely aware I couldn't breathe a word to anyone. My parents called that very night, overflowing with pride about me, acing another grueling pathology exam. Listening to their praise, I felt a familiar pang. The artist who'd just earned more than their annual fellowship salary remained invisible, a ghost in their meticulously planned life for me. The subsequent years fell into that same demanding rhythm. I excelled academically, earning the validation Dr. Elena and Dr. Ricardo Vargas craved, while Seraphina Moon became a bona fide sensation. The close call in the lobby left a metallic taste in my mouth. The absurdity of hearing my parents critique my soul poured onto canvas, hitting harder than ever. Maybe it was time for Seraphina Moon to step into the light, but I never anticipated how it would detonate. Still clad in my St. Jude's white coat, pacing a sterile hallway, my phone buzzed insistently. 3 missed calls from Julian. Then a text flashed. "Major problem with tonight's unveiling. Need to speak as soon as possible." My heart hammered against my ribs. I ducked into an empty consultation room, the clinical silence amplifying my dread. "Julian, what's wrong?" His voice was strained, tight with worry. "The Chicago Chronicle," he said, the name landing like a physical blow. "They're running a piece on Seraphina Moon tonight. Someone talked, Ariel. They claim they know who you really are. Ice water seemed to replace my blood. That's impossible. Only you know. It wasn't me. He interrupted urgently. Someone at the hospital pieced it together. They noticed you're conveniently never on shift during Serafina's major gallery openings or shows. They've linked the uncanny anatomical precision in your paintings directly to medical training. It's convincing speculation, and they're running with it. Tonight, right before the Art Institute unveiling. I collapsed into a chair, my legs suddenly incapable of supporting me. 6 years of airtight secrecy, about to shatter over scheduling conflicts and artistic technique. Can we stop it? I whispered, the question feeling futile. Not unless you want to confirm or deny on record. They're giving us exactly 1 hour to comment. 1 hour until my carefully separated worlds collided. Through the consultation room window, I saw Mom and Dad doing rounds, embodiments of certainty. My meticulously built walls were crumbling. Trying to keep these worlds separate felt like holding back the tide by sheer will. Impossible. I'll call you back, I told Julian. My pager buzzed. Pediatric ward emergency. Racing down the corridor, my mind spun. If the Chronicle ran the story, everyone knew. The emergency was a frightening allergic reaction. As I administered epinephrine, calming the child clutching a stuffed bear, I noticed the ward's stark white walls, nothing like the vibrant canvas downstairs. Thank you, Doctor, the mother whispered, relief evident. You made him feel safe. Looking at the boy, breathing easier, something clicked. I was good at this, not just because they forced me, but because I brought my whole self, the artist included, to it. Stepping out, I called Julian. Don't fight the story, I said firmly. Give them better. Tell them Serafina Moon is attending tonight's unveiling, in person, first time ever. Silence. Ariel, are you sure? This changes everything. Everything's already changing. Might as well be on my terms. I hung up. I requested an emergency evening off, unprecedented, but approved given my record. Then, the hardest call. Mom, Dad, Art Institute of Chicago. Tonight. Please. More important than board dinners. After a pause, Dad agreed. At home, I opened the secret closet containing my Serafina persona, choosing a hand-painted silk dress, its brushstrokes telling my story, a stark contrast to my doctor's wardrobe. I thought of the painting waiting there. Serafina's caduceus. Tonight finally felt right. The Art Institute pulsed with electric energy, a sea of Chicago's elite buzzing with the rumor that the elusive Serafina Moon might finally break her silence. The unveiling of Serafina's caduceus was the event of the season, now amplified by intense speculation. I spotted my parents near the entrance. Doctor. Elena and Dr. Ricardo Vargas, looking distinctly uncomfortable in their formal business attire, completely out of their usual St. Jude's element. They hadn't seen me yet. Behind them, shrouded beneath heavy velvet, waited my painting, my confession rendered in oil and gold leaf. Julian materialized at my elbow, his usual composure strained. Press is everywhere, Ariel. Last chance to reconsider. I shook my head, my resolve hardening. Not this time. The museum director stepped up to the podium, the tap of the microphone echoing slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this truly historic evening. As he spoke, I began moving through the throng towards my parents, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, yet years of ER crises kept my steps steady. And we are profoundly honored to announce that tonight, the director continued, his voice rising with dramatic flair. After 6 years of captivating mystery, the artist known as Seraphina Moon. I reached them just as the velvet drape began its silent descent. Mom. Dad, I said softly, forcing them to turn, their eyes widening at my silk dress, so unlike their Dr. Ariel. Behind them, Seraphina's caduceus blazed into view. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I'm Seraphina Moon. The words hung, fragile yet explosive between us as camera flashes erupted, momentarily blinding everyone. The stunned silence stretched for an eternity before fracturing into pure chaos. Flashes exploded relentlessly. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions over the roar of the crowd, everyone desperate for a glimpse of the revealed Seraphina Moon. But my gaze was locked on my parents. Mom's meticulously crafted composure finally shattered. Impossible, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the din. You're a doctor. I'm both, Mom, I managed quietly. Always have been. Then, unexpectedly, Dr. Arthur Holloway, head of the St. Jude's board, pushed through, his face flushed. The painting! The one in the lobby unveiled this morning, he exclaimed. That was you? I nodded numbly. His next words detonated another bomb. We must retract the purchase! We can't accept a $2 million donation from a resident! Reporters scribbled furiously. Doctor donates millions to own hospital! My father's voice cut sharply through the noise. Donation? He turned to Holloway. What donation? Dr. Holloway looked baffled. The purchase price. It was returned anonymously, earmarked for the pediatric program. We assumed some wealthy philanthropist. Understanding dawned. Dad turned back to me, his expression unreadable. How many others? How much? Julian stepped forward, ever the professional. 38 major pieces sold. Total sales approaching $40 million. Seraphina Moon is the most successful contemporary artist under 40. Mom swayed. Nearby, a critic was ecstatic. The surgical precision. It all makes sense. Then, Dr. Isabella Rossi, my chief resident, appeared, eyes shining. The difficult diagnosis last month. You saw patterns others missed, like an artist. Mom finished softly, a flicker of something new crossing her face. Dad remained silent, hands clasped tightly behind his back, processing. The museum director was frantically trying to regain control, but my world had narrowed to my father. He slowly walked towards Seraphina's caduceus, the crowd parting instinctively. He stood before it, this man who had vehemently denied my artistic path, studying every brushstroke with the same fierce intensity he applied to complex X-rays. I held my breath. The anatomy, he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. Every muscle, every vessel. It's perfect. Yes, I whispered, moving beside him. Because I learned it from you, Dad. He turned, and I saw the unthinkable, tears welling in his eyes. All these years, he choked out, we thought we were shaping you into a doctor, but you were becoming more. Mom joined us, her hand finding mine, a silent anchor in the storm. Julian approached tentatively. Ariel, the buyers. Bidding is already past asking. No, Dad interrupted, turning to face the stunned crowd, his surgeon's authority resonating. This painting belongs at St. Jude's, next to the other one, where everyone can see what happens when you don't force someone to choose between halves of themselves. He looked at me, a complex mix of pride and regret. It's worth millions, I started. He smiled, truly smiled. So is my daughter. Overnight, the story exploded. Doctor Artist sensation. St. Jude's launched an art therapy program with me directing. My paintings now bridged galleries and hospital wards. Last week Dad stood before the lobby painting. I was wrong, Ariel, he admitted softly. I almost stopped you. You taught me precision, I replied. I just used a bigger canvas. So, what are the real lessons etched onto this canvas of my life? Perhaps the most vital is that authentic passion, that inner fire, will relentlessly seek oxygen, even when others try to smother it. And maybe, just maybe, we don't always have to choose between the disparate parts of ourselves. Integrating my analytical medical mind with my expressive artistic soul didn't diminish either. It created something stronger, more insightful. Success isn't just a white coat or a sold-out gallery show. It's the courage to define your own path and live authentically, even when it terrifies you. Bringing my whole self to St. Jude's made me a better doctor, and understanding human fragility fueled my art. The secrecy was a heavy burden, but the honesty, though initially painful, opened the door for genuine understanding with my parents, proof that communication, even delayed, can heal. They're seeing the world, and me, differently now. The plaque in the hospital lobby proudly displays both my names, Dr. Ariel Vargas and Serafina Moon. It's a constant reminder that we are infinitely more than the labels imposed upon us. Now, when asked if I'm a doctor or artist, I simply say yes. My studio awaits a new canvas. This isn't the end, it's just the first chapter signed with my real name. What lesson hit home for you? Does my story echo any hidden parts of your own? Drop your insights in the comments. Smash that like button if you felt inspired, and be sure to follow for more incredible journeys.